speakers up there. All right, Dwight, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, this is Dwight. I'm talking to you from Da Nang, Vietnam. It's almost 4 in the morning here, but that's a little bit late for me because I generally get up. I'm a really, really early bird. I get up at 2 a.m. each day. And I've been a life coach now for 36 years. I think it's the best job in the world. I get paid to play, you know. And I've pretty much lived outside the U.S. since I was 55. I'm 79 now and just getting started in my life. And I lived in Japan for 1 year, China for 21 years, Colombia, South America for 1 year, and now I'm in Da Nang. I think this is the new great place to be forever in my life.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about how you got into life coaching.
Okay. Well, I was very lucky. I actually quit college after 3 years and didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I just borrowed $200 from my parents and took a 2-day bus to New York City from North Carolina. And very fortunately, within 3 weeks, IBM hired me and trained me as a computer programmer. And within a few months, I knew I'd found my career. I really loved it. I worked for IBM 2 years, and I quit and started working for myself as a freelance computer programmer. But long about the age of like 25, 26, David, I had these sort of personal problems. I got interested in psychology and all this stuff, and I was actually had a counselor for a few years, and I started reading books on Gestalt therapy and later cognitive therapy, and I started taking like weekend workshops, self-development workshops, and I had no idea that I was training myself to be a life coach. I was just doing this for my own personal growth and stuff. And I just continued with that, and I was very eclectic about it. I just studied pretty much everything. I got into the landmark work. I got into NLP. I got into Byron Katie. I got into some other less well-known things like Omega Vector in Arizona, and an avid book reader. I usually read a book every week or two, in this whole area. Again, never imagined I would be a life coach, but then I started learning things, and my friends had problems. And they'd ask me about them, and they gave me feedback. Hey, I feel a lot better, thank you. And they changed. And so I just, 1987, I just shifted my career, and it seemed like I figured out a way pretty quickly to get clients, on a regular basis. And so I've been doing this for over 36 years now, and the economy's gone up and down, and I haven't even noticed it. And I get paid to play, So that's a quick background.
Okay, great. So go back to the beginning here. I know you started out in computers. How did you get that work in computers, and how long did you stay in that until you switched into life coaching?
Well, when I went to New York City, I had even no idea there were so many job opportunities. Oh, you can study to be and get into airline management. The airlines were really. This is about 1966, okay, and but fortunately somebody said, hey, they're hiring and training programmers now, and I did take one course in college in programming, and I liked it, so I started applying, and I don't know, 3 weeks, IBM offered me this position, and then they trained me, and I loved it, and then after 2 years, I wanted more freedom, in terms of, clients and learning whatever I wanted to learn. So I quit and started doing the freelance work. And I continued in that for another 18 years before then, with all this sort of background training I didn't even know I was being trained for. Then I actually sort of invented a technique for myself to keep any promise I made to myself, and I offered it to my friends and said, "Oh my God, that's great! It works." But there was coaching included, and they said, "We like your coaching even better than the technique," you know. And so I actually count April 1987 is the switch from, and not I didn't switch because I didn't like computer programming. I still love it, you know, but because it just seemed more juicy to talk with people about reprogramming their life, if you will, you know. Not hearing you, David. Okay, now.
Oh, no, I was just checking in here. So let's see. Tell me a little bit more about the theory that you developed or the technique you developed.
Technique theory.
Oh, you said that you developed something that you were then
Oh,
sharing with everyone.
okay, yeah. The technique, I ended up calling this technique called Consider It Done, because I had this problem of keeping agreements with myself, you know, and even other people, I talk with them, and nobody had this problem solved. Like, you make a promise about exercise or this or that, you know, and then you maybe do it for a while, but then you drop it out, you know. And I just had a sense that I could solve this problem. So I worked on it for several months, and I sort of implemented it for myself. And then over I did a test, like about 2 months. I went overboard. You know, I made about 30 agreements with myself a day, you know, everything from like brushing my teeth to exercise, whatever. And over those 2 months, I kept over 98% of my promises. Oh my God, you know, I was so excited. I told all my friends about it, you know, and said, "Hey, Dwight, we could use that too," you know. And so I decided to offer it as a service. And then, almost as an afterthought, David, I included some periodic coaching sessions, you know. And after a few months, my clients were happy with the technique, but they gave me the feedback they liked the coaching even more, you know. And so I still provide the technique when people want it, but I like the coaching more too. So I just shifted more into that. Did that answer your question?
It does. And I'm going to move on to where you live and how you've gotten there, like over the years, again, starting in 1987.
Okay. Well, in 19, I lived in Arizona. I was in New York City for 14 years. Then I discovered Arizona. I moved to Arizona. I ended up living there 18 years, actually. But when I was in Arizona, I met and married this lady. She was a Japanese lady, you know. And so it was in 1995, I think, that she was going back to Japan, to Sapporo, Japan, to visit her mother. And so I went with her, you know. And I had never been to Asia before, anything, you know. And so I went to there, and and it was about 3 weeks. And so, oh my God, I just was so fascinated by the people and the culture and everything else. And I figured out a way to actually get to know them by holding up a sign. I had to choose a lot of courage at a subway stop, speaking English just for fun. Come talk with me. And I really got to know the Japanese people. And I was just so fascinated. And then so later on, my wife and I separated and divorced, but I loved Japan so much. So I went back there for a 40-day holiday in 1997. I stayed with 18 different homestay families for 2 days each over 40 days, you know, and just an adventure of a lifetime. And then I went back I created a 3-month holiday in 1998, you know, in Hiroshima, Japan. And then I went back again in 1999, May of 1999. And at that time, I said, I'm going to move to Japan, you know, and I figured out a way how I could continue my coaching practice with my USA clients from Japan, you know. And so November 5th, 1995, I arrived in Tokyo, you know, and I thought I was going to live there a long time, you know, and I really loved it there, made friends and everything, and just everything, an adventure, you know. But I visited Shanghai, and I said, oh, Shanghai is better for me than Tokyo, you know. So after 1 year, then I moved to Shanghai. And I lived there 9 amazing years, making a lot of friends and anyway, and then I discovered Kunming, China. You know, oh, Kunming's better than Shanghai. So I moved there 12 years in Kunming. Amazing just to be there. And somehow I thought I went, for various reasons, I thought I wanted to move to Colombia, South America. And I did, okay. But after 1 year there, I said, oh, this is a mistake. I belong in Asia. So now I'm back to, I researched and I decided that Da Nang, Vietnam is the best place for me. And so I've been here 4 months and it is even better than I thought it would be.
So we might call you a digital nomad, being able to work all over the world. How do you maintain your practice with people all over the world?
It was a little bit challenging in the beginning back in 1999, 2000, you know, but I managed to set it up even then that I would, my clients would buy these calling cards, you know, and they could call me in Japan for like 10 cents a minute or whatever now. But then, you know, Skype comes along and everything. It's like, doesn't matter where you are in the world. I mean, you have to adjust for the time difference, you know, but, and I found coaching by telephone or Zoom or whatever is actually, there's very few advantages of like physically being with the person, you know. And I've done coaching with the same person both ways, and almost always it's more effective. And I won't go into the reasons. It's actually more effective like by telephone or Zoom than it is physically together. And so it's like. It makes no difference at all. I mean, I could be in the U.S. and coach my clients. It would make no difference for them or me, you know, in terms of the quality of our coaching than me here in Da Nang, Vietnam, you know.
So that's the difference between this and psychology. In psychology, it tends to be you meet with the people in person.
Well, I know it tends to be that way. I'm not sure I can point to certain advantages of that, and you know, but there's so many disadvantages to that too. I'll give you a quick example. One time I was coaching a client by phone, you know, and we got into some pretty deep stuff, you know, and she cried and, you know, just expressed herself, really got some stuff out, you know. And a little bit later, she said to me, you know, if we were physically face to face, I wouldn't have felt safe enough to let myself cry, you know. So I really don't think it's that as necessary as people think it is, and I'm open to learning different than that. But so far, I can give a lot of arguments how in most cases it's better on the telephone or Zoom or whatever.
Okay, great. So I've got two questions, and you can decide which order to cover them in. So one is, how do you get clients? And the other one is, what is your process of coaching? Like, what are the agreements you make with people?
Sure. The way I get clients is, I don't know, I sort of stumbled on it too early in my career. It's a five-step sort of marketing strategy. Is with my current clients or other people, I on a pretty regular basis, I'll ask them a simple question. You know, like I said, would you please take the next 25 seconds to see who comes to mind as somebody you think might be open to accepting a 1-hour gift coaching session from me? No cost, no obligation, you know. And about 50% of the time, I get at least one name and number. You know, I have to stop asking that question. I get too many names. And then second step is I call up the person, you know, and I say, you know, I was introduced to you by so-and-so. They thought you might be open to accepting a gift from me. That they accepted. It takes 90 seconds to describe it. And would that be okay? And almost always say yes. And I describe it very succinctly. And 80% of the time, people accept that gift coaching session, you know, and we schedule it and set it up, you know. And then I send them some materials in advance, and their job is to come up with one big issue, problem, or goal, but something big enough, David. So if we are able to have a major impact on it in the 1 hour, it could be life-changing for them. And then, of course, we have the scheduled session. I make sure I confirm the day before, for the time. And nowadays, I usually give them a choice. It could be telephone, voice, or Zoom like this, And then at the beginning of the session, there's a little bit of introduction, getting to know each other. I ask them to give me a 4-minute history of their life and what they like about themselves, what they dislike about themselves. They can ask me any questions, and then I ask them, okay, what are we going to make a difference in? What's that big thing, And so it can go all over the map, from relationship issues to procrastination or lazy issues or being fit or whatever, it's up to them. And then I just, this maybe gets into my technique. Over 36 years, I've been able to identify some very, very fundamental principles. I mean, the surface, the problems look very different often, but I can usually fairly quickly identify. If I ask some questions like, they'll say, well, I have a problem with procrastination. I'll say, well, give me a recent example where you procrastinated, and then I know some basic principles, how to address the issue of procrastination, and then I'll share those. I ask them to consider some different perspective, a way to look at it, and to look at, okay, look at all those great benefits you get from procrastination. That's the issue here. And so is there a way that we can have because procrastination has cost too, right? So one of the basic principles that I work off of, I got this fundamentally from NLP, was every behavior, even it seems like a very bad or damaging behavior, has benefits behind it, And if you don't find those benefits and address those benefits, it's going to be really hard to change that behavior, that you think you don't like. So that's one of the other basic principles that I work from, And so, but I just, the client is always, they tell me where they want to go. It's like, I don't give advice. If people say, I want this change in my life, then if I have their permission, I can suggest some things, the ways to look at it, so to make that change easily and quickly, And then after the end of the gift session, and I sometimes continue that so make sure they get I'm loving myself. I'm loving the gift session so much. Sure, I like them to be my client, but it doesn't matter because I'm already one having that gift session with them, But then I tell them about my program afterwards, and I'd say about 25% of the time, I get a new client, And so it's just easy and fun, People pay me to play. Did I answer your question?
Yes. Sorry. Can you go into the payment a little bit more? You don't have to give exact numbers, but just what do you expect of the clients?
Well, my program is a 6-month program, and we set it up at the beginning so that I look at all the different areas they want to make a change in terms of their, maybe their health area, their relationship area, their issues with themselves, all the changes like to be different in 6 months. And also I take them through something I call a whole life issues profile. And this measures what I call now next integrity, which is issues of conflicts within yourself, with, okay, I know I should not have that chocolate, but I really want the chocolate, and then also, the conflicts with others. So, oh, well, I'm not sure I really want to loan my friend the money, but they're going to blame me if I don't, and to actually measure their level of like not having any conflicts, like be integrated in those areas. So I call my program like sometimes a whole life coaching program. It's not just about getting results, but it's about them being like getting results in a joyful, easy way, you know. And so it's 6 months, and there's two standard half-hour sessions a week. I found an hour is too much, you know. If you're really focused, you can get a ton done in half an hour. And then if by having 2 a week, then you got a short feedback loop, you know, in terms of, okay, they said they're going to do some things between now and the next time. So you got a short feed. But I say there's really unlimited coaching. So anytime, you know, we're partners in this. You have a problem, you know, let me know. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I call myself the 1440 guy, you know, that 1440 minutes a day, you know, and you get back to me, and hey, if I'm sleeping, I'm not going to respond until I get up. But you let me know, okay? And then I have a guarantee in my program. I say, you know, at the end of the 6 months, if you're not entirely clear that the benefits that you got was not worth more than, basically I charge about $6,000 for the 6-month program, okay? And I have payment plans if that's needed. But if it's not worth, if in your mind it's not worth more than that, I'll refund, full or partial refund. I'll refund whatever you request. And over the 36 years, I refunded a little bit less than 1% of what people have paid me. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you. We've got Anne who's joined us, and
Hello, Anne.
I'm going to open it up to both Anne and Matisse. Do you have questions for Dwight?
I have a question. Did you, wait, can you shut it down? Did you get any licensing for this or go through any schooling?
No. Let me address that issue because that's often brought up. Especially, I have a separate program where I actually train people to be life coaches. Okay, and so that's an issue that's brought up there. There are certification programs. There's even training programs to be a life coach. I've never taken any of those. I've never done any of those myself. I've actually provided my own certificates to clients when they've asked. They've gone through my life coaching program, and sometimes people. This is very rarely, but sometimes people say, "How do I know that you're good?" Or "Do you have a degree or a certificate?" You know, and I say, "No, I don't." But I tell you what, just accept the gift coaching session. It doesn't matter what I got. All that matters is whether I can make a difference for you. And you're the one to judge that. So just accept the gift coaching session from me, and you can make your own judgment. And it's a very rare situation. I mean, I think of 2 in my whole life that where a person said, "Well, you don't have any degree or certification. I'm not going to listen to you." You know? Does that answer your question, Matisse?
Yeah, definitely. That's great.
Yeah.
So did you like apply a lot of what you learned from your journey?
Did I apply?
Like with your clients, like did you like learn a lot about how to life coach through like what you've been through and then you apply it to your clients, or?
Well, I've taken all these different seminars and courses and everything. A lot of times, say, you know, there was a situation where there's actually a leader, you know, and there's say 150 people in the room, and maybe one of the participants stands up and got a microphone, and the leader is coaching them on some issue, and everybody else is listening. And in that time, of course, I didn't even know I was learning to be a life coach then. Even though I was absorbing the benefits for myself, I was also noticing how they were coaching this person. And because sometimes I say, "Oh my God, how are they going to even solve that problem?" But 10 or 15 minutes later, the person they're coaching is smiling, and I'm very when I was 14 years old, Matisse, I made a sort of a life decision that I was going to be eclectic. I wasn't going to like subscribe to, if you will, this philosophy or that philosophy. I was just going to go and see what I could learn from everything, and take what it made sense to me and leave the best. So I've integrated, a lot of different disciplines and you could say created my own style, but I'm not sure. Am I answering your question? Give me some feedback, Matisse.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
That's great.
So I'm going to expand on that a little bit. So there are different certification programs. There's different coaching styles. What is your thoughts about those different certification programs?
I have no thoughts about it. I have no knowledge.
Okay.
Although I would like to make one comment. In psychology, if you, generally speaking, to practice as a psychologist, you need to have a degree and you need to pass some certification programs and keep a license and everything. And maybe I can appreciate somewhat why they do that. But the great thing I like about life coaching, as long as I don't call myself a psychologist, because I'm not, but it doesn't mean I don't use psychological principles, nobody can prevent me from doing that in my coaching, So it's like, to me, there's so many advantages of but being a life coach over, say, being practicing as a psychologist, per se. Like there's a lot of structure and restrictions involved with that are not there in life coaching. There's hardly, the only benefit I can think maybe over psychologists is maybe that somebody's insurance might pay for it, whereas that probably maybe insurance wouldn't pay for me. Does that answer the question?
Yep. So, Anne, do you have a question?
No, I think all the questions that I had have already been answered in what's already been discussed.
Okay, so while you're on here, I'm going to ask you, and then I'll ask Matisse later. What would you need to do in order to become a life coach? I mean, what questions would you have about that?
Did you say what questions I would have?
If you were to become a life coach, what would stop you?
Well, I think like finding clients, just because I have social anxiety. So I think having to put myself out there without necessarily being part of a licensed organization and finding my own clients and having to advertise myself would be really hard for me. I think that's what would probably stop me from being a life coach.
Well, I think that's really great. Dwight, can you address that?
Yeah. That's you hit the nail on the head, Matisse. There's a lot of people out there who maybe are really good life coaches, but they don't have a successful life coaching career because either they don't know how to get new clients, or even if they sort of know, they're not out of that, wanting to avoid that fear of being rejected or looking whatever way, they're not going to do it, and so when I, train people in life coaching, I show them, first of all, I've got the 5-step strategy. I never advertise. Never advertise. I don't put myself, I'm not really on social media. I don't do any of that stuff. All I do is I just, on a fairly regular basis, request from my clients or even people I just give a gift session to, regardless of whether they become a client, would you please take the next 25 seconds to see who comes to mind, somebody, and then they gave me a name, often, and I just ask for their name and their mobile telephone number. That's all I need, you know. And then sure, this is the point often of courage, to call that stranger, you know, and to be willing to, you know, introduce yourself and make your offer, make your request, okay. And one of the techniques that I often do with almost everybody, Matisse, is a special undoing fear process, you know, and where you actually make friends with the energy of the fear, you know. And so I take them through that process, and then almost always like I'll actually measure the fear. Like, okay, imagine you're about to call that person, you know, and they'll measure the fear, like say it's 6, you know, 0 or 10, and then I take them through this process, and almost always, then just in a very short period of time, the fear is down there at 0, 1, or 2, you know, and then and I'll go ahead.
Yeah. So, Anne, would you like to actually go through a little sample of that? I mean, this is being recorded, but would you have a fear that you might want to work on? Just for, let's say it takes less than 5 minutes.
I don't know. I'm doing like a lot of work separately, so I don't know.
Okay.
Either.
But how about you, Matisse? So, okay, like if you imagined, say you were starting your coaching career, and you imagined that you got a name to call, but they were a stranger, do you think you would feel some nervousness or fear about picking up the phone and making that call?
Personally, I think that's the part that would excite me, but I think I really like helping people, and I think there's something to be said about listening to people, and instead of giving advice, kind of like allowing them to come to a conclusion, and I enjoy doing that. My question would be, are there any struggles that you face as the life coach when it comes to a client? Like, are there, like, do they ever struggle? Because I know, like, a lot of clients, I'm sure they have like epiphanies, and then like it's all smooth sailing from there, but I feel like a lot of clients would go through a lot of ups and downs, and how do you deal with that?
Well, yeah, people go up and down. It's not, it's off. I mean, there's those breakthroughs, but I, my attitude is, hey, I love problems. Tell me your problems. You're depressed? Fine, let's find out. Let's get curious about depression, you know? What's the benefits of being depressed? Oh, you feel guilty. Oh, what's the benefits of that? You know, let's talk about that. Oh, you didn't do what you agreed to do since last session. Isn't that interesting? You know, it's like and something else, Matisse. I mean, you know, people talk about burnout. Invariably, I have more energy at the end of a session with a client than I have at the beginning. It's like my attitude is, hey, you know, with their permission, I'll do what I can to help them see, you know, make the difference they want. But it's my attitude. I'm going to have fun with it, and I know I can't guarantee. You know, I know that I'm powerless in many ways. You know, I can have some influence, but I don't have power. I can't force anything, you know. And I consider it all to be a game. Life is a game, right? After you have enough to eat, everything else is a game. What do you think, Matisse?
No, that's great. That's a very optimistic way to look at it.
Not just optimistic, it's true. People
Yeah, no, that's great. With your practice, yeah.
Yeah, listen, they're treating things like survival's an issue. Survival's handled. I'm sure we're going to die someday, but survival's handled, right?
Right.
Nobody you're talking about to is likely to have an issue of they're going to starve to death, you know. So, oh, you want to play a game of having a better marriage? Fine, we can play that game. You would play a game of having a good divorce? Hey, let's go for it.
Yeah, that's great. That takes a lot of pressure off of the situation.
And another thing is if you can begin to, you know, as a coach, as a counselor, whatever, if you can begin to get outside of the domain of thinking things are right or wrong or good or bad, you know, that's our number one addiction in the world, the addiction of righteousness and doing the right thing and not doing the wrong thing, you know, and looking good. Our number one fear in life is, are we looking good? Or are we going to looking bad, you know? But sure, we all want to look good, but if you're not willing to take the risk to look bad, your hands are going to be really tied. What do you think?
So, Matisse, what would stop you from becoming a life coach?
Well, what occurs
I
is
would
problem.
enjoy being a life coach. I don't think anything would stop me. I think the only thing that would stop me is doing something else. So
That's great.
By the way, David, I just want to leave the link for my my website. Just give me a second here. And Anna, Matisse, or anybody else, you know, on my website, you can look at it. Of course, the main reason I'm giving you this link is there, at the bottom of every page is a feedback form, so you can easily communicate with me that way. Let's see, oh, here's the chat. Okay, so can you see that link in your chat box, Matisse and Ann?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, all right. So
yeah,
please feel free to ask me any follow-up questions or whatever. You know, I'd love to just consider me to be sort of like a unlimited resource, and I'll take care of myself if you overstep your boundaries. Well, not boundaries, I mean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Matisse, do you have a fear that you'd like to work on right now? Something that you're scared of doing or avoiding doing?
Anything you're nervous about, or okay.
Not off the top of my head.
Anything you
I'm
worry
sure
about?
I have a lot. I'm sure I have a lot of fears I should be working on, but not that I can think of right now.
You have no worries at all? You never worry?
I'm not worried about anything now, but no.
Okay.
But you know, it's getting cold out. I'm scared of winter. That's why I went to Arizona. But I'm here now, so.
Yeah, I know about Arizona. Yeah, I lived there actually in Tempe for a few years near the University of Arizona, you know. Or
Oh,
ASU.
nice. I was in Tucson, so.
Oh, you were in Tucson, okay, down there.
Yeah.
I think David would like me to demonstrate the process. Is that right, David? So why don't we just?
Oh, here, I'll give you an example. All right, I'm scared of heights, and I wish that I could face my fear of heights.
Okay, all right. Well, So can you imagine a situation where it would be nice to be able to sort of handle heights without not being too scared of them? Can you give me a specific situation?
That I wouldn't be too scared.
Yeah, that you would like to be in some particular situation. I don't know where.
Oh,
heights
okay.
okay.
I would like to bungee jump.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, so you really think bungee jumping could be great, but your fear of the height, the experience of bungee, I can relate to that one, would be just too much. Okay, good. So I want you to right now, are you in a private place there, Matisse?
Somewhat.
Okay, all right. So I want you to right now get it, like just imagine that you've actually signed up for bungee jumping and now it's just about your turn, okay? And and as much as possible, get in touch with that fear that you think you'd feel if you're getting ready to be harnessed up for the bungee jump. Can you do that right now? And
Yeah.
and measure the level of that fear that you're feeling right now between 1 and 10 and tell me what the number is.
Probably like a 10.
10, okay, we're way up there. Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is stand up if it's possible. Take some really deep breaths down into your belly. Like, okay, so continue with that. So now I'm going to ask you to say some specific words. And the first words of this are always holy moly and jeepers weepers. I'm so scared that. Now, what ending of the just so scared that I'm just so scared of bungee jumping, or I'm just so scared of that I'm going to die if I do this? What ending could we put on that, Matisse?
I'm scared of the bungee cord breaking
Okay,
and I
good.
fall.
Okay, I'm so scared that the bungee cord's gonna break. Okay, so the words are, speak these back to me. Holy moly and jeepers weepers, I'm so scared that the bungee cord is going to break.
Holy moly and jeepers weepers, I am so scared that the bungee cord's gonna break.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna ask you to speak this loudly, slowly, in a very silly voice. Now let me demonstrate. I'm so scared. So,
Okay.
your turn. Your turn.
Broke up a
Oh
little there,
boy.
but you get the idea.
I do. Are we doing it? Am I doing it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Holy moly, jeepers weepers, I am so scared that that bungee cord's gonna break.
Okay, that's good. But we need louder and more silly.
All right. Okay.
Three more times.
Okay. Holy moly, jeepers weepers, I am so scared that that bungee cord's gonna break.
Great. Good.
All right.
Louder and more silly.
Okay.
2 more times. Breathe
Okay.
deeply.
Holy moly, I am so scared that that jeepers weepers, I'm so scared that that bungee cord's gonna break.
Okay, good.
Okay.
But this last time, slow and loud, silly wacky.
Okay. Holy moly, jeepers weepers, I am so scared that that bungee cord's gonna break.
Okay, fantastic. You did a great job. Deep breathing now. Keep it. Just continue. Relax. Deep breathing. Done. Now I want you to get back in touch. You're just at that point. It's your turn. To put on the harness and everything, and get in touch with the level of fear at this point, and measure it freshly. between 0 and 10. Tell me what number it is right now.
Probably bumped down to like an 8.
Okay, so it dropped
Like
from 10,
I'm
10
still
to 8.
scared, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure, I understand. We only did four holy mollies. I usually recommend 11. Okay, and I want to suggest to you, I mean, you could try it on your own, Matisse, but I want to suggest to you, if you really did, by yourself, if you get it down, it would just keep going down as long as you do more. And it doesn't mean the fear is going to be completely go away, all right? But it'll turn much more into energy that you can use, because what you're doing, you're fighting with the fear. That's what you're doing. It's automatic, like your fear is pushing this way and you're pushing back.
Yeah.
And the holy moly gets the energy flowing. It's like it's like you're trying to dam up all this energy, and it stops you. It gets the energy flowing, and then also then imagine patting yourself on the back for the courage you're about to choose to bungee jump. That little child inside you is terrified, right? But if they're willing to even consider choosing this, that's great. What do you think?
Yeah, I could see that helping in many situations.
Yeah. I have challenges. I have a lot of responsibility to do things, but I basically have no worry. I have feel no pressure. I don't have to get overwhelmed, and because whenever I can feel just a little bit of fear that I might possibly be resisting, I have that automatic habit, like to do the holy moly, and turn it into energy and pat myself on the back for the courage I'm about to choose.
I love that.
Thank you, and thank you for allowing me to share this with you. Any thoughts on that, Anne?
I thought it was really interesting to see the process. I didn't know what to expect at all. So I thought that was really helpful, and I can compare it to like other experiences with like other professionals that I've had. And it's like there are lots of similarities and differences. So
by the way, I've modified it a bit, but I need to maybe acknowledge one of my early teachers in my life. You may not have heard of him because he's dead now, but his name was, he was a psychologist, Dr. Nathaniel Brandon. And he's pretty famous about writing books about self-esteem. And he wrote a book called The Disowned Self. But I originally learned this technique, at least the essentials of it, from him.
Yeah, so I think that it's great that you can see the difference between this life coaching and other professionals. It's definitely a different focus. Now we've got maybe 10 more minutes. I don't know if you have enough time to go through the now next issues.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So it's taken me a long time to discover these basic principles, but I found that there's two basic fundamental conflicts that almost creates all problems of suffering. And one is what I call a now next lack of integrity. The other is oneself, others. But because now next is actually more fundamental in a certain way. I'll talk about that. It's the issue of like, because happiness is a purpose of life. We can't get around that. You show me anything you say you want, I can show you how it's either focused on reducing unhappiness or trying to get happiness one way or the other. Okay, so that's just how we're wired. There's no way out of that. But there is the issue of, well, happiness now versus happiness in the future, So there's my Dwight next. that wants a happiness in the future. You know, my life to be good. There's Dwight now, he just wants to be comfortable and happy now. Hey, forget about the future. You know, sort of like a child, you know. and we often have been taught that our next is the good guy and our now is the bad guy, right? So we go back and forth with this battle, you know. We're going to eat this for pleasure, or I'm going to not eat it for having a good future, you know, or study hard for now for the future, or oh, play with my mobile phone. You know, it's all over the place, you know, and the problem is all of our teaching has been to lionize the next part of us, you know, and the solutions we've often been giving is like somehow dominate that now part, or tolerate, you know, just keep going. And that's a big mistake, because that actually creates a lack of integrity. So the new approach I have is finding ways. A major portion of my website is about this, David, finding ways for the now and the next both be happy, you know. I call this now next integrity. And I give a quick story. You know, if you go on Amazon.com and type in my family name, Goldwyn, Goldwinde, you'll find a book there about courage. It's called Courage, the Choice That Makes a Difference, a Key to 1,000 Doors. It took me 4 years in my spare time to write this book. I started in year about 2000, 2001, you know. And for the first 2 years, it was very easy. I was writing essays, sharing them with friends, getting big. But then I stopped after about 2 years, and I oh my God, I wrote over 900 pages. I got to stop. You know, the publisher will only accept the 700 pages, you know. So I had to stop, and I knew I got to edit the book, get it all ready. But I didn't have the terminology back then. But essentially what was happening is my next, you know, really wanted to get the book finished. But when my now thought about sitting down and going through all this stuff I've already written and trying to improve the English and edit it and everything, this is boring. I don't want to do this, you know. So, but I reached a point where I started asking the question, how could my now enjoy editing the book? And it actually took me about 3 weeks to come up with a good idea. Offhand, it says, oh my God, it seems almost impossible. Now, this is very specific to me, okay, but it did solve this problem, which was a very big one in my life at that time. And what I came up with, I put some ads in a Shanghai website where I was living for what I called a book listener. And then I would have, say, a young Chinese woman, maybe a university student, come in and sit beside me. And I would tell her, I actually lied to her on the first day. I'd say, I'm going to read this out loud, and you know, to make some editing. And your job is to make suggestions how I can improve the English. You know, so I'm having fun. We're spending about 2 hours a day. I'm really moving along, getting my book ready for publication. You know, but after about 2 days, you know, she's starting to feel guilty because she's not a native speaker. I'm dealing with subtleties, you know, of the English language, and she expresses her guilt and says, "Relax, you know. I know she feels safe with me now. You know, she knows me. Okay, so I tell her the truth. You're helping so much, because if I can have a young, attractive Chinese woman sit beside me and listen to me, I can enjoy anything." So that's how I got my book finished. That's just an example of the principle of finding ways, you know, for the now and the next to actually be together and support each other and live in the same household. Although otherwise we got a civil war going on. I mean, there's civil war with 4 major factions: the now and the next, and the oneself and the others. You know, so the time has come to end that civil war. You know, not only for self, but ultimately humanity too. Does that answer any other questions about that, David?
Yeah, I think that was a great example.
Mhm.
And I think it's about time to wrap it up.
Mhm.
So Matisse and Ann, do you have anything additional that you wanted to ask or say?
No, that answered a lot of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much, Dwight, for being here.
Mhm.
And well, it looks
Next
like we've
time.
got at least one person here who's gonna become a coach. a life
Okay,
coach.
good. And Matisse, just feel free to ask me any questions on that. You know, I'd be honored to be of any value to you.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's really
All
cool.
right.
You have that website set up.
Yes, yes,
Super
yes.
easy.
Yeah, I've been working on it for over 5 years.
Oh, wow.
The number one complaint that people have is like a rabbit hole. You know, go down this and here's this link this way, this way. Where do you stop? It's so much. But just about any
Yeah.
issue you want to address, you can put in the search box and find it there. You know.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, thanks a lot.
Okay.
Stop.
Bye bye, everybody. So I'm going to sign off and get the recording saved. Okay, David.